Awesome.
Uh, hey, everybody. We're back with Always Bookin Comedy. It's another Monday night. I'm here with Emilie Strickley. How are you, Emilie?
Good. How are you doing this evening?
She's all swagged up. She's got her hat on for Joke Junction. We're going to learn all about Joke Junction tonight. Emilie is in Grand Junction, Colorado. It's a smaller market, which I think is going to be super interesting for people to learn about how comedy works in a smaller market. But before we get into that, Emilie is also a comedian. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how do you get started? Why do you get started? Tell us about your origin story in comedy.
Right. So, people have always told me I was funny and I should try stand-up comedy. So I think it started from that. And my friend and I that I worked with back at the TV station, she was like, I've always wanted to try it too. So let's just try it. So we got hammered at an open mic night and tried it. And it surprisingly went well. I blacked out, I'm pretty sure, from the nerves on stage, probably not from the whiskey, but anybody's guess. And I just loved it. The adrenaline, like I'm too thick for roller coasters. So this is how I get my adrenaline is stand up comedy. So
That's awesome. Does your friend still do comedy?
no, she doesn't, but I always let her keep tabs on me. So
Nice. So where was this open mic? Was it in Grand Junction?
it was. So it was at an open jelly at Cruisers, actually, which is a local bar,
Okay.
dive bar with pool and all the games and fun stuff. So yeah.
That's awesome. Is there still an open mic? How long ago was that?
So that was, I want to say, like 9 years ago.
Wow.
Was a really long time. So that open mic it travels from location to location and venue to venue. So there's still quite a few open mics that aren't comedy centered that I still go to and get stage time with. So
Nice. So like it's a mixed mic, like music,
yeah.
poetry slam, whatever you want.
Yep.
Uh, do you get longer spots at those music mics?
Yeah, because typically no one keeps tabs. They try to say, like, because if you're a musician, you can't just do 5 minutes. You
Right.
have to do like 10 minutes. And so as a comedian, I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do 10 minutes. Got it. So
Nice. That's awesome. Cool. So that's how you get started. So how big is Grand Junction, Colorado? It's on the western slope of
yep.
Colorado, so it's west of Denver. How big is it?
So its population is 65,000, so it's pretty small, but it
Okay.
is the biggest metropolis from Salt Lake to Denver, so it's the biggest stop in there. And we have
Okay.
2 hospitals, so I'll count that as pretty metro.
Okay.
Sub metro.
Middle of my show in Montrose, which was like an hour from Grand Junction, we saw the Flight for Life, heard the Flight for Life going by. So got heckled by a helicopter, and probably going to Grand Junction, maybe to Denver. I don't know how far those things go. Cool. So now tell us a little bit about Joke Junction.
Right. So my counterpart, Shelton Holmes, and we wanted to start an open mic night. And we were like, yeah, let's do a comedy open mic night. Let's go in April of 2020. So we all know what happened in March of 2020. So he and I just kept
There's no competition. It's gonna
there's
be
none.
perfect, Shelton. Everybody shut down. We're gonna be the only game in town.
That's it. Let's do it. And
We have 2 hospitals. Don't worry about anything.
we can kill him with laughter. They can save him. It's fine. No, so there actually wasn't a comedy scene before Shelton and I got together and pushed for a comedy scene. So he and I just started reaching out to bars and being like, hey, we'll do comedy. And then it morphed into now we have 5 events a month, 3 open mics a month. Just building the comedy scene here on the Western Slope.
That's a lot
It is
for
a lot.
one company and for one small community as well.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive that you're
Thanks.
doing that. Um, tell us a booking win,
A
something you were really excited to get booked on. I don't know, maybe you do all the booking, and I don't know how that works, but
So here locally in Grand Junction, if it's Joke Junction, Shelton and I or I are booking it.
okay.
So probably the most exciting one was I got asked to perform at Here House in Aspen, and so
Whoa.
that was really fun. That was my first away show. That was my second away show,
Okay.
and it was just. I was in Aspen. I was like, a little Grand Junction me is in Aspen. So it was really
That's
fun.
so cool. That's so cool. Who I know the woman who books that, but I can't remember her name right now for some reason. Do you remember her name?
Beth.
Beth. Yeah, yeah.
Beth and
Yeah.
Miller.
So
Yeah.
funny. She's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that was fun. How do you think that came to pass? Like what was
Um, I actually won the Colorado comedy competition that Snowmass hosts this past January. So I won that and
right.
got connected and
So you went to a competition on
yeah.
the road
Hmm.
and did well, won the competition, and then a local comic saw you and booked you on a show.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the story. Yeah, that's a good.
And
That's an
I want to
yeah,
brag on myself a little bit.
sure.
I smashed the competition. My scores were very high. Um,
Nice.
and it was my first comedy competition ever. So that
That's
was pretty fun.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's great. And you got a booking out of it. That's so
exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
great. Okay, so how about on the other side of the coin, somebody you've booked that you've been really excited about and
So
have
we
that
recently just
gone?
had this comic Mark Masters
Love
come
it.
through.
That's great.
No, honestly, so you were
Okay.
actually the first person that has reached out to us who
Mhm.
wanted to come do a show with us. We've had like Corey David from Denver, and
Yeah,
we've had a
very
couple
funny.
comics from Salt Lake
Uh-huh.
coming down and doing shows with us, and that's always a blast. But to have somebody of your caliber reach out and want to perform with us it was
Oh,
great. It was a lot of fun, and Jake was awesome too. So that was a really
yeah.
fun
Yeah,
show.
so to give everybody some context, what happened was, I got booked to headline a series of shows, one of them in New Mexico, one of them in Montrose, which is near Grand Junction, and they were on a Thursday and a Saturday. And so the booker for this, I basically told him, I said, I can't do it unless you can get me a Friday night. And they said, we've been trying to get a Friday night forever. We can't get it. And I said, all right, well, give me a week and I'll see if I can get a Friday night. Because I looked at a map and I saw Montrose was right next to Grand Junction, and I knew Shelton. And so actually, I didn't. I knew of Shelton,
Right.
but I knew that Kyle. This is very complicated for everybody watching. But Kyle in Steamboat, who I know very well, I was pretty sure he had his information. So I texted Kyle and I said, Kyle, can I get Shelton's information? And Kyle was nice enough to send it over to me. And I said, sent Shelton a note and said, hey, I got this Thursday, Saturday. If you can help me fill this Friday, that would be amazing. It'd be really great. And then you guys put together a show. And this is
Yep.
like, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that. So I went back to the booker and I said, all right, I got my Friday. I'll take the Thursday, Saturday. And then they said, great. Can you find a feature? And I got Big Jake Hovis, who's going to be a guest on July 17th. It's currently June 5th. If you're watching this in the future, 2023. He'll be on this show. But very funny guy. I came up with him in the Denver scene, and then he moved to Louisville. He's been making big moves there ever since. And so he came out and featured for me on 3 nights in a row, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the Friday show was a huge highlight.
Nice. Good.
I'll try not to identify what show the Thursday night show was, but let's just say it was not a great show.
Mm.
It was a great venue. It was organized well. Sound was good, light was good, stage was good. There were even a lot of people there, roughly the same amount of people we had at your show. They were just dead. They did
Ugh.
not want to laugh, and you could, blame it on the comedians. Probably that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to blame the audience. But I can tell you that I did a very similar act the next night, as did Jake. Both of us basically bombed the whole time. It was brutal. Uh, and I had to go like into deep crowd work because they just wouldn't laugh at
Oh,
anything. So I had to talk. There were people in the front row that were just like, like just like unhappy to be there. And it was really rough. So your show, like Jake and I talked about it afterwards, it was such a breath of fresh air. The
good.
audience wanted to be there. They were excited. They were laughing hard. It was a great room. It was
Good.
really
I'm
cool.
glad.
Yeah. Edgewater Brewery, right? But it
Yep.
has a
Yep.
different name on the outside. What's going on with that?
So Canna Creek is a local like brewing company here in Grand Junction, and they have two locations. They
Okay.
just call that one Edgewater because it's on the edge of the river.
Ah, got it. Okay, cool. Neat. Yeah, so that was a great show. So okay, so that booking came about because the comic reached out to you. And I guess
Yeah.
that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's good to have, I think to your credit, what you guys had was you had a system in place. Like you had a show. You were able to say, yes, on this Friday, we already have the room. We know we can move tickets. Here's what we'll pay you. Here's what we'll do for lodging. And you guys were super organized, very professional, and I felt comfortable,
Good.
like it wasn't even taking a risk. It was like, okay, cool. This is like a professional production company
Right.
that I'm going to be able to work with. Um,
Awesome. That feels good because like behind the scenes, Shelton and I are like, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. I don't know. Sure, let's go with it. And we're winging everything. And
yeah.
thankfully it's working out.
Good, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a good room, good audience. It was fun. Okay, let's transition into maybe a road story. Some kind of have you done some road work?
The only place I've gone is Aspen and Snowmass.
Well, let's hear all about it.
So I got to ride for the Colorado Comedy Competition. Is that was actually a lot of fun because it was me and three other Joke Junction comics.
Okay.
All of them were dudes. So we just piled into this other dude's like truck. He's a clay artist, so there's just clay and art stuff everywhere. And it was fun. It was fun being able to bond with the comics and friends in a different way. Because at open mics and after open mics, all you're talking about is comedy and open mics.
Right.
So to be stuffed in a car together for 2.5 hours, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then the energy of Snowmass was just different. I never considered myself a minority, and then I found out I was the only fat person in Snowmass. So I felt it. I kind of got a taste of what that feels like. But yeah, it was so much fun. It was fun. It was a good memory for sure. And I can't wait to do the next competition that they have.
That's awesome. That's cool. So how was the drive home? Did you drive back that night?
Yeah, we did. And it was dark and snowy. So we didn't get back into Grand Junction until like, I think I was the last one to be dropped off. And it was 1 a.m. And so I
Wow.
had to work the next day. And I
Oh,
just
rough.
reminded myself, this is worth it. It's all worth it. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. So, how do you find your venues?
We pretty much just hit up bars and restaurants around town. We're just like, hey, do you want to have a monthly comedy event? And then it's gotten to a point where the first one that we ended up doing consistently, I was actually friends with the owner. But it turned into such a thing that now we can just reach out and say, hey, we have this percentage of attendance. We gross this much. Like our businesses gross this much sale. Like, so just
Do your
reach.
venues provide sales numbers to you?
No, we're getting to the point where we're collecting those. So Edgewater is the first one, and we
Okay.
don't ask them for like specifics, but they say that for their Wednesday nights, it has
Mhm.
been an increase in overall sales.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I mean, some venues, it varies. Some of them they'll give you the full report that breaks down like alcohol versus food
Okay.
versus tips versus, and you get this like long, it looks like a CVS receipt. I don't know if they have pharmacies yet in Grand Junction, but they have like in the big
They're
cities, they
in
get
the
the long,
alley.
yeah. Um, but other venues are like very secretive and don't want you to know. And it
Nice.
varies. But I find when I'm setting up rooms, I prefer a partner that's going to be open about sales
Yeah.
because really I want to see trends over time. Like I want to
Yeah.
see, like I want to be good for their business. That's half of running a comedy show is keeping the venue, and you want the venue to be happy and you want their business to increase over time, and for them to be nervous that like if you left, if the show's gone, they're going to lose money.
Right.
Whereas the opposite is a problem when they're like, yeah, we could take this or leave this. We don't care. Like they're
Yeah.
not making it. They're costing us money. Like
Right.
we have to
Exactly.
turn on the lights at a time when we have no customers and they're loud and obnoxious, and so you want to be a good partner
Right.
with your venues. Have you been who's your like your white whale? Like what's the venue you really want to secure?
Mhm.
You don't have to
As
maybe necessarily name it if you don't want to out it, but maybe you could describe
I don't
generally.
so I like the places we have right now. We're really good in bars.
Okay.
I think getting into like with a local theater. So we have two options. One is a little bit more highbrow and the other one is a little bit more comedy centered. Like I think being able to get something consistent in with them would be kind of cool. But they do a lot of national like bookings and like tours for both music and stand up. So
Do you know
it'd be
how what their capacity is?
I want to say at least 200.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and the Edgewater where we were at last time, their exterior, so like their lawn has a capacity of 200.
Okay.
So a little, I guess, into a little future of Joke Junction, we want to be able to do a comedy festival next year.
Nice.
bring a bunch of people in. And so Edgewater would be a really great venue for that, like outdoor at nighttime.
Yeah.
And I think, the theater would be a good other one. And there's a couple other places, but we have some decent venues around here, just not a lot of comedy yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your smallest venue?
Okay, so it's actually one of our favorite venues. We have every second Saturday. It's at Gemini Brewing Company, and it's a brewery in an old schoolhouse.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, so like in an old high school, they set up this brewery. Capacity inside, including the bartenders, is 49 people.
Okay.
So we can only sell like 35 tickets. It gets packed. And those shows are always like our fun experimental shows.
Okay.
So we do like a lot of comedy on the fly. We do a lot of improv type of stuff. This next Saturday, we have this upcoming Saturday, it's called Trial by Comedy. So
Okay.
we're doing like a improv comedy trial where the comics don't know if they're pro or con or what their trial is.
Huh.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Do
Yeah.
you how did you get that venue? Was that
Um,
just
so
knocking on doors, or did they reach out to you, or
I think it was knocking on doors. So Shelton procured that one. I think just had gone there for dinner or something with buds and was like, this would be a nice space. Or
yeah.
maybe there was another comedy show. That's what it was. Is somebody else had booked a local comedy show there separate from us. And that's where we're like, hey, we can do this. So
I think it's hilarious that everywhere I go, even if like lunch for a sandwich, I'm always like, this would make a good comedy room. There's
right.
the corner where I can put the stage. There's an outlet where I can plug in a light. Like,
Yep, exactly. I think the
that's so
same
funny.
thing.
Yeah, I'm at like a funeral home, and I'm like, yeah, if we just moved a couple caskets, this would be
Just
terrific. And we already
park
got
the
the
seat.
chairs.
They've got built-in pews. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. The acoustics are really good in
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny.
Cool. So you wanna do a festival, huh? That's
Yeah.
ambitious. That's a big thing. Have you been to a comedy festival?
I haven't yet. I was hoping to make it to the Vail Comedy Festival and I didn't get to. So hoping I get to make it up next year and then
You
see
should come
how
out.
it's done.
We'll get you a pass, and we'll get you an industry pass as a, future do you know when, do you have a time of year in mind for the festival?
Summer and fall typically works best for outdoor stuff here in the Grand Valley.
Okay.
Excuse me.
That's okay. I'll talk a little bit. So the Vail Comedy Festival is every Memorial Day weekend for anybody who's watching. It's a ton of fun, and it causes coughing spasms around the country
I'm
where
just so
people are just
excited.
laughing so hard and having such a good time. That's neat. That's a great goal, and I think you'd get a lot of participation. Did you hear about the Winter Park Comedy Festival that happened
No.
last weekend?
Okay.
I don't know anything about it really, other than I kind of know the show producer, and it's another small kind of comedy festival in a mountain town. Can you call Grand Junction a mountain town?
Uh,
Outdoorsy?
Not really. It's kind of
No.
a high desert. It's a desert town.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. But I feel like it's a festival in a small town.
Comparable size.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
If
Yeah.
I Do you have any questions about trying to get started with a festival?
I don't even know where to start. Like where do you start? Like we have good
Well,
relationships with venues, but
yeah, well, that's huge. The venues are one of the hardest things. Obviously, you need to get comedians. So, in terms of calendaring, the first thing you do is you open up for submissions, which is
okay.
always a little, you really want to look legitimate, because there's a lot of fly by night festivals that aren't very good. And you just want to make sure that people have confidence that if they're paying money to submit to your festival, that it's going to be a worthwhile event.
Okay.
And then, I would set up a calendar of like, is it going to be 2 days? Is it going to be 3 days? Are we going to ticket the shows individually or have a festival wide pass? How many shows are we having? What venues are we going to be at? And just kind of sketch it out. And at some point you realize, you know what, this isn't impossible. It's like what we do every third Saturday times 10. Instead of 3 comics, we have 30 comics. Instead of 1 show, we have 10 shows. Instead of 50 customers, we have 150 customers if everything goes to plan. You might need some extra equipment, like if you have kind of overlapping um, stuff, like you might need an extra set of lights. Maybe you already have that because you've been around for a while. Maybe you've upgraded your systems, so you have older stuff laying around, or you can beg, borrow, or steal stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it's fun. It's exciting, and eventually you get into the fun stuff like swag, and you got to figure out like what you're going to offer comics.
right. Okay.
You can offer nothing just other than stage time. That's not uncommon. You can offer lodging or help with lodging. I think I've heard of festivals that just rent like a big Airbnb house,
Oh, that'd be
and
cool.
then like a dozen comics stay in the house. And then some comics are like, I don't need to sleep on the floor with 8 other people. I'll get my own hotel or whatever.
Right.
Having meals and sponsors, like if people can get free beers, all that stuff helps and gets good word of mouth for the second year.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Solid. That's actually okay. So sponsors is a good idea. That's something I hadn't considered.
Mhm.
Um,
And they
and
don't necessarily have to be money sponsors. That's
then,
the best. The best is somebody will give you X dollars. But if they'll just give you, 30 cans of beer so you can have a party for the comics the day they arrive, or somebody who's going to give you, I don't know, airtime on the radio or,
right.
uh,
So like in kind type of
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some media connections. I think I could get that.
Yeah. You did a great job at that, by the way. So let's talk about that because it's one of the hardest things about being a comedy show producer is driving an audience to shows.
Yes.
And you did a good job. There were people at the show. Sometimes I show up to a brewery like the one you had the show at, and everything's set up great, except there's like nobody there.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get people to show up?
It's kind of hit and miss in Grand Junction. So I'll be honest, there's times where we don't pack the house. We try to be very consistent with our marketing and our just presence. Our biggest channel right now is just social media, Facebook.
Hmm.
And then we try to keep it where we're places consistently. So if somebody stumbles upon us, and they're like, oh, the show's ending, we can say, oh, we're going to be here next month on this day.
Yeah.
So then consistency helps kind of build audience. Um, and then just to be honest, Grand Junction is just a laugh starved town. Like we really haven't had, and they built a outdoor amphitheater probably about 5 years ago, and that's kind of been one of the first windows to getting more comedy touring through the valley.
Hmm.
Before that, we just really didn't have a lot of that. So I think people just want to freaking laugh, especially after the last 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of hit a niche and a stride in that sense. But other than that, it's just consistency and being good at what we do.
Yeah, well, and you put effort in as well. You can tell that when you work with some show producers, they don't work very. You show up to the venue, there's no signage or anything. Like I went to the bathroom right before my set, and there was a sign for the show right on the bathroom door on the inside, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be good.
Yeah. We like to do that. I mean, we want people to come. We want people to get involved too. So not only do we want people to come to shows and like pay for tickets and beer, we want people to come to the open mic nights, try comedy, like just build up our own little local army of comics.
I saw that you had some local comics on the show, and that was nice that you're trying to generate a scene as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I noticed that you use Eventbrite. Have you always used Eventbrite for ticketing? Do you ever use other things? Have you thought about using other things?
No, I think this was our first last fall was when we first got signed up for it. So we
Okay.
didn't really start charging for shows consistently until last February.
Okay.
And then Shelton and I decided actually about a year ago, let's do an LLC. And so yeah, Eventbrite is pretty new to us. Shelton said that you shared with him some really cool features and tools for us. So that's something we got to dive into and utilize more because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were doing free shows. How do you feel like the ticketed shows are different than the free shows?
So we kind of try to structure tiers with our shows and with our comics. So open mics are always going to be free because we're
Okay.
trying new stuff out, getting weird with it, and sometimes it's not good. So I'm not going to charge people to come see that. We do sometimes accept donations, like we'll put out QR codes to our Venmo, but it's no obligatory. And then we have a show that's a free show. We have one show a month that is free. That's like an exhibition show. So comics have like 10-minute sets up to 20-minute sets. And
Okay.
that's what we intend to give people who are doing well in open mic nights a
Okay.
chance to try a longer set.
Okay.
Um, and then in our shows that we charge like $10 to $15 for, those are our heavy hitter comics who are always participating and like getting new material and putting on good shows. So I think keeping ticket prices at a good place and making sure we deliver quality content, that's our like sweet spot that we're looking for.
That's awesome. Do you do any kind of email marketing?
Not yet. So we actually just built a website and I'm an amateur web developer.
Okay.
And so I'm still trying to figure out how to even just make it mobile friendly.
Okay.
But we did just sign up for this service called MailJet to try
Okay.
and do it's free email marketing. So
Sure.
that's something we do want to foray into.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
great. It's good to have a reminder, a couple days before a show, and you can experiment like a week before a show or 2 days before a show. Like, what's the sweet spot to drive people to actually get tickets and come to a show? Do you
Right.
find that a lot of people, oh, look at this. We got somebody on Twitch. We are live right now. Gabe Asher
Woo!
5923. If you have any questions,
Oh,
we're
that's
live for
funny.
another 4 or 5 minutes. So if you have a question about comedy, show running, Grand Junction, Colorado, any of that, we'll answer your questions. Gabe Asher 5923. Look at this. We're getting people. Do we have Gabe Asher? We have questions for you. Where are you? Where are you located? We're both in Colorado, Emily and I. Okay, what was I got distracted. That was so exciting.
That's okay.
Um,
um,
what were we talking about?
Tickets,
Oh yeah. Maybe free
email.
shows versus you kind of look and sound like Andy Dick. Okay. Well, maybe if yes, I'm a little taller than Andy Dick though. That's good, Gabe. A little I'm assuming you're talking about me and not Emily.
I'm a lot shorter than Andy Dick, but okay.
Okay.
Oh, we
Now
were talking about email marketing.
Oh, yeah, like
Yeah.
how to drive audiences. Oh, yeah, so talk to me about what you do on, like, Facebook. Do you do paid social, or do you just do organic and anything you've learned?
So mostly it's organic, and our organic has actually done pretty well for us. We put money behind shows like that we bring you in for, or that we bring people in for,
Mhm.
just to try and get a bigger crowd to those ones. Otherwise, it is organic. We try to post. I try to post at least 2 days before the event, and making sure that people are getting tickets, especially because we have an event a week, basically,
Yep.
and making sure that each month we're posting like a coming up in the month of May, coming up in the month of June, provided that Shelton and I are on top of it at the beginning of the month. But
Nice.
yeah, just
Alright.
we try to do engaging things. I also want to try to foray into like sharing comic stuff and clips
Yeah.
from our shows and that kind of stuff.
Videos and yeah. Okay, so we're gonna close out this show here with a question from Gabe Asher 5923. Who are the top 5 comedians of all time? What we're gonna do, I'm gonna twist your question just a little bit, Gabe. I'm gonna let Emily go first, so she's gonna get 3 chances, and I'll get two. Emily, who are your favorite comedians of all time? One at a time. You go first, I'll go second, back and forth.
Okay. Uh Ron White, man, as problematic as it is, there's a soft spot. I love me some Ron White.
Yeah, Ron White's great. You should book Chris Voth, Voth. I can
Okay.
connect you. He toured with Ron White all of last year, maybe longer before that. He was his opener in huge theaters all over the place, and he lives in Denver.
Okay.
He's he's expensive, but if he had a big like opportunity, I think he'd make the drive. And
Okay.
yeah, he's super interesting too. He's got like a movie that he wrote, um, and so yeah, we can talk about him later. But Ron White is number one. Everybody, number two, I'm gonna go with Gary Goldman.
Okay.
Check out his bit on Conan, 50 state abbreviations. So funny. Guy out of New York City, super tall, very just clever joke writer, very smart. All right, Emily, you're next.
Okay. Hannah Gatsby.
Hannah Gatsby, controversial choice. Have you seen the latest special?
I
Was
have.
it good?
It was really good. It was very different than like her Nanette and Douglas specials, but it was
Okay.
really good. It was good.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'm gonna go with a sleeper hit here. Caitlin Palufo.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay, okay.
Peluffo. She's recording her first album at the San Francisco Punchline soon. She was a headliner at the Vail Comedy Festival. And just, I'm going to share this because we're interactive. Gabe Asher, not a fan of the Hannah Gadsby. That's a pretty common. A lot of people are
It
on
was
that.
somebody with the name Gabe Asher. I'm not surprised.
Oh, I just picked up on that wordplay there.
It's clever.
I did not see that before. Well, anyways, all right. So who's up next? You are.
Me. So I Eliza Scherzlinger. She
Okay.
was kind of one of the first female comics. I was like, yeah, okay, sis, let's go. So I enjoyed her.
Yeah. All right. Well, Gabe Asher, 5923, redeems himself with saying that I assume this is about Hannah Gadsby. That's very good self-awareness. Eliza, I think, is playing the Pepsi Center, now
Mhm.
called the Ball Arena, coming up.
Yeah.
So that would be an exciting thing to travel to. All right. Well, we're all out of time. How do people find Joke Junction, shows there, you, etc.? Promote yourself quickly.
Easiest way is Joke Junction Stand Up Comedy on Facebook. You can find this logo. And then me personally, I'm Strickley Stand Up on Instagram at Strickley Stand Up.
That's awesome. And it's June 5th, 2023. If you're listening to this live, I will be in Kearney, Nebraska on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday night in Iowa City. And in late June, early July, I'll be at Stir Crazy Comedy Club in the Phoenix area, opening for, featuring for a guy who was on Breaking Bad, which I'm super excited about. Going to be really fun. So markmasters.co. This is Always Bookin Comedy, where we talk about comedy stuff and we get people from Twitch to join in. Gabe
Woo!
Asher, 5923, thank you. Mark in the Carolinas, who is here, welcome. Hello, thank you. And that's been our show. I'm going to end the broadcast. Come back next Monday. We're here live every week at 6:30.